Hello, Richard here from Eagle 6 Airsoft. We was asked to have a look at one of these KSGs to see what else we can do on this, or if anything. So yeah, this is quite a tough one because it has a fixed barrel system in there, and yeah, it makes it very difficult to it's obviously adjust hop units to obviously get range. So the customer said this obviously doesn't have any range, which is true. I said I'll shoot sort of about 20 meters, and that's pretty much about it. So it's obviously if you want to use it slightly longer ranges. So what we did, we took the actual hop units themselves, remove so the hop rubbers, remove those. On the underside of each hop rubber is a sort of like an empty space, a concave space. We've basically put a small piece of a metal wire inside there, if you know what I mean, so of a certain gauge, i.e. thickness, and then basically just sort of glued that in place and trimmed it. So it's actually a small piece of solder, would be the best way to describe it, and then that's trimmed that to size because that just fills that gap nicely. And then obviously we've then gone and retested it at range, and yeah, lo and behold, it flips up further. We've done that on M92Fs before, just to get a bit more range on the old fixed hop system. And it does. A little bit unpredictable, just because obviously you can't sort of handmade, so obviously you can't sort of guarantee the correct size. So there's obviously two, I think, going more than the other one is, which is like say slightly over hopping, but it kind of is what it is with regards to trying to get more on this. All you can do is make the change and then go and try and test the result. It lifts much further, if you know what I mean, than what they was listing before, if you know what I mean. So which is the request. So hopefully we've done that. Obviously long term, yeah, we'd love companies to make different ones, but obviously this is a very unique hop rubber that's bespoke to the 870. So until sort of somebody's out there doing different hardnesses, we're kind of stuck with what we've got modifications wise. Another thing we noticed was when you're putting stronger gases in here, it did bump the FPS up to a nice sort of closer to 350 on some of the strong gases, but when you was on a fresh fill, we found that a couple of the first shots were quite low power, struggling to come out of there. So we just done a small power spacer basically just to go on the hammer spring on this, so that when you actually cock it and fire it, basically has just a bit more of a positive sort of ping to it. Therefore, a bit like increasing our hammer spring on our 18C or something, to prevent light striking. So so hopefully that's just buffed that a little bit. Just from sort of investigating, it's one of those things where you have to make a change and then you find another problem, and you make a change, you find another problem. But like I say, if somebody's there at that distance, it's going well, it's shooting strong, so obviously perfectly fine for a shotgun. Obviously it now does a bit more range. Like I say, with the green gases, it does bring it up close-ish to 350 FPS. There might be a possible market there, if you know what I mean, for like I say an adjustable valve of some description to try and increase FPS and or changing the flow of gas, to try and obviously get a bit more in there, i.e. increase FPS. But obviously for UK, we're technically right up there on the limit. So 332 this one was coming out. It's also worth pointing out that obviously that's a crap load of BBs going across the chrono. So it could well potentially be more than that. Obviously it's difficult to, so obviously it's not quite sure on how much to actually technically push these, especially since they're actually going to be used for a CQB typically. So but yeah, well, like I say, it's it definitely felt like initially beforehand it needed a bit more oomph and it needed a bit more range, which we've got, and I think that's pretty much about it. Obviously in terms of long term, it functions, works. It's so I'm not entirely sure what else could sort of be done long term. Like I say, if it's at the FPS that we're looking for, obviously if somebody was trying to get to 400, it might be a bit of a different story possibly, but then it's going to have its own set of problems trying to get the inside of this to hold gas at 400 and 450 and all that sort of thing. So no, I think it's pretty much about there. I can't really think of sort of any other product ideas for it in order to improve it. It's working, you cock it, and I say it shoots a bit further now. Would I prefer a company to do 50 degree, 60 degree, 70 degree, M870 hot rubbers. Of course I would. That'd be awesome. Or just a hard and soft version. Just for those people at the very least that have them wear out, because they've used lots of rounds. But yeah, it'd be nice to obviously customize it depending on the ammo type that the person's using. Obviously, use a heavy ammo, the shot's going to dip, so obviously you need a harder hot rubber. So if you want the light ammo, you need a softer hot rubber. And then obviously as temperatures change, that can obviously affect the hardness as well. But hopefully it's all good. And like I say, there's a bit of information there for people who hadn't seen these ones before. But yeah. A little bit limited. So, and the only other thing that's available part wise would be now I think about it is there is 870 barrels that are possibly available. We might try and get those into stock. We typically let them go out of stock because they weren't very popular, but these upgrade products, they tend to go out of stock if obviously people haven't realised what they're even for, and seen a good use case. You show somebody a good use case on a product part, an upgrade part, and suddenly people want to buy it, So a good example would be, like I say, potentially upgrading the barrels on these, and in that way, we might be able to eke out another 10 FPS possibly. So, this would have potentially been about 342, so at that point, if we gained another 10, so it's I don't know, we'll try and get them in stock, and like I say, our possible builds in the future for this are pretty much just going to be maybe type of barrels, maybe that spacer mod on the hammer spring, and we might look into, like I say, the internal valve from WeTech possibly, but otherwise, like I say, I think we're done for this particular one. All right, thank you.